COVID-19 is more than just a disease. It's an amorphic force which has pressed itself into the lives of almost everyone on Earth.
We will beat the coronavirus, and we will beat it together. And therefore, I urge you, at this moment of national emergency, to stay at home, protect our NHS, and save lives. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Alex Fisher and I'm a documentary photographer and filmmaker studying in Swansea, Wales. A year ago today, the UK entered the first national lockdown in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. I want to explore how COVID-19 has impacted life for students who, like myself, are studying during these uncertain times. One thing is for certain, in those last 12 months, life has gone digital.
From religious services to family get-togethers, much of human interaction has been reduced to pixels on a screen. 3 questions come to mind. How did students find the first lockdown? How has the government's response been perceived? And what are some of the biggest hopes students have for the rest of 2021? I reached out to fellow students through social media to talk about their experiences. So how did you find that first lockdown?
I mean, it was a bit of a whirlwind, wasn't it? It was kind of, it was hard. But I'm not going to lie, I did enjoy kind of the time. It felt kind of peaceful at times, and I would focus on my photography and kind of go for walks.
I found it really challenging. It was a bit confusing because I didn't know whether I should have stayed in my student house or gone home, or was I even allowed to come home?
There was a really weird thing about, can I go home? Like, is that legal to move house even though there's a lockdown? So that was the immediate, because really it was very short-term thinking at that time.
The first lockdown I think was easier than now. I was visiting my girlfriend when the lockdown hit, so I got stuck in England for lockdown 1, and I stayed there until the restrictions lifted.
The first one I found okay, and I think it's the same as everybody because it was a bit more sunny. I didn't really mind because it wasn't as strict and it felt like it was going to end soon. So the whole time I wasn't kind of daunted on my plans getting cancelled. I was focusing on what I was going to do after, not thinking that it was going to last for over a year.
It's always in the beginning, especially at the start, I was very paranoid, just especially seeing my grandparents and everyone. I was just sort of constantly worried about, and meeting up with friends for walks and everything. I was just worried about kind of how close I was to them and then how close I was to my grandparents, because I just didn't want to be the person that gave anyone I knew COVID.
I was very anxious. I still am very anxious. Going shopping in particular brings out the worst in me, because I literally do tell people to get out of my space. Do you know what I mean? I don't like being in that situation, and to be quite honest with you, I don't know how I'm going to come out of that situation as lockdown lifts. It's pretty scary out there,
So I was actually placed on furlough, even though I was a student on my placement. So when it first happened, it was very unknown whether I'd actually be able to finish my placement. So I finished later than I should have done, but I still managed to get through everything I had to.
The social part of being a student really disappeared when everything went into lockdown here in Norway. I have ADHD. So sitting at home doing school I don't want to call it impossible, but it's really hard and really challenging to me, because there's something everywhere. I need an environment that is made for school to stay concentrated for school.
During the first lockdown, I returned to England to look after my mum and grandparents who were shielding. I remember feeling really anxious leaving the house for essentials because of the fear of putting my family at risk. I also remember feeling that the government's guidance was really unclear and made me very unsure about what university would be like in September. So how do you feel the government has handled the pandemic?
Yeah, I think students have been quite forgotten through all this. Obviously, schools and colleges are still government run, so the government decides when they go back and when they don't, but universities are more like independent businesses, so they decide on their own. They've been given less guidance from the government.
I don't think they've handled it very well. Like we locked down too late. They didn't close the borders. You didn't have to get tests when coming in. I think we were 6 months behind like a lot of countries for when you actually had to get tested, and then if you were positive you had to like isolate. So I don't think they've handled it very well at all.
I found that just following their actions and the news really had like an impact on me, because it felt like they weren't doing the necessary steps, or they always just felt kind of a little bit behind of where they needed to be.
And knowing that they were telling us for a long time that masks didn't make a difference, and then now we've been wearing them since like August or whatever, it was just frustrating. But now this lockdown, I haven't been watching the news. I never watch it. It's too negative.
Obviously, I don't think they've done an amazing job. The attitude at the beginning of, oh, it's happening over there, it won't happen to us, is incredibly bad. But there's also just nothing we can kind of do about it now. And I guess that's there's democracy, but then that's the trouble when there's like a government in place that has no opposition with power. So the government can just do what they want to do, and obviously that could be both bad and good. I do wonder what it would have been like if Jeremy Corbyn had been Prime Minister.
Students are a minority, and unfortunately we are a minority that will get overlooked. For instance, paying rent, if we didn't pay rent, then people would lose jobs, landlords would go bankrupt, and there is this huge thing that, yes, it's unfair that I've paid rent and I've not stayed in my house once. I've done one night. But if I didn't pay my landlord, she has a family, she has a newborn, she's not going to be able to provide for her if I didn't then pay for my rent.
COVID-wise, I wish they just shut everything down for 3 weeks, especially during the summer. The Norwegian government was like, yeah, you can travel outside of Norway. And I'm standing there wave 2 in 2 months. And in September, Norway had a really, really big wave of COVID cases.
So what did you think about the Eat Out to Help Out scheme that took place in August then?
Oh, I really enjoyed that. Because it felt like, even though it was probably not the best decision, I get how they were thinking about the economy, but I actually really enjoyed it, and I think it would be nice to see it happen again.
I think that it was essential to keep everything going and keeping the economy happy. Even though it cost us more in the future, hospitality would have crashed and burned without it.
But very quickly it turned into kind of a negative thing. I don't really know what they expected, to be honest. You encourage young people to get out, spend money, but very quickly afterwards, obviously, people go to restaurants and mix, so of course the cases were going to rise, and kind of students and our age bracket were kind of the people that were getting the blame or getting targeted, I felt. I
think that Eat Out to Help Out definitely has affected the normality of people's lives for the past sort of 6 to 8 months. I think without them putting that scheme in, I think stuff would have been lifted earlier, and I think stuff would have been more normal, and less people would have actually died of COVID.
During my last year studying here in Swansea, the beach has become an important place for me. It is a place that I can retreat to in order to reflect on my experiences as a university student. Now, I am coming to the end of my undergraduate degree, and my sights are on the future. So then, what are your biggest hopes for the rest of 2021?
Yeah, I would like to see my friends again, whatever way that would mean. I would like to get another curatorial project under my belt, just start doing things physically again. Yeah, but I know that I've been fortunate enough that I have a bedroom at home that I could move back to, that I've been able to see my family. Like, my mum loves it because she never expected to have us all back home again. And obviously the pandemic has brought her babies back home, so there's like, yeah, as frustrating as it is, it is that time that we'll probably never get back again. Whether it's like a good time or not, it will be that time that I had to just come home and sit still.
My biggest hope is just to have a summer with a bit of freedom, is just to really appreciate seeing loved ones, to seeing friends and family, just appreciating all that we have and cherishing those that you love, to be able to see them again, and not just 2 meters away, but actually going up to someone and hugging them.
I really want to graduate with a 2-1. I really want to buy a house and find a full-time job. Like, that's the plan, and everyone keeps saying to me, like, what's your plans after lockdown? But once I graduate, then I'm going to start thinking more about that. And yeah, it's just graduating and buying a house. Those are like my main goals right now that constantly playing on my mind.
So my hopes for the future, that's a really interesting question actually, because this somehow has not put my, like, this whole, pandemic has not put my life on hold. It's actually probably made me take decisions that I wouldn't have otherwise taken, because I've had time to learn things, and the freedom of time to learn things. I think, yeah. I mean, I know it's been harder on other students, but personally, I feel like I've been quite lucky. I try and think on the bright side. Not that I've been done out of like £6,000 or whatever.
Biggest hope is just to have a normal summer where I can actually meet up with my Swansea mates, my Bristol mates, my family, and actually kind of go to the pub, go for day trips, go for like weekends away, and just kind of have a normal life again, really. That's the sort of the main aspects in that.
As for me, I was hoping, because we're in our last year of uni, and I was really hoping that we'd be able to have a physical exhibition, or at least have a graduation of some type of thing, as in the human interaction. We've been told just recently that this isn't going to happen, and it's like, okay, is there any point? Do you know what I mean? And you've got to come from there, because there is a point. We've got to be ready to be able to tell the world our story when it's time to say the story.